make regular doing town halls. I was shocked when I got to Congress that some folks just don't do them because they're scary sometimes. We're in scary times, and sometimes it's difficult, I think, for folks to get out of the Washington malaise. And I want so much to be in regular contact with folks. Every single town hall, I'm hoping that we get better, that we get clear. We have a website. I know very few folks go to websites anymore. We try to keep it updated. We're trying to do a better job with social media to make sure that you understand our votes, what we're doing in the community, what we're doing in DC. So much of this binder is every single question that you all have asked when you registered for this town hall. We've seen every single question. We are logging our calls. Up here, we wanted to give you a little bit for folks who are sighted to see and read our legislative and community updates. We are so blessed to be able to have ASL interpreters here today, and we want to make sure that we're learning with your feedback what would make this place and this space, wherever we are, center our disabled brothers and sisters and siblings. As a disabled woman myself, it's awful to be the one to ask and to raise your hand to ask for accommodation. So we're very, very aware of wanting to make sure that we're accessible and that we're open and honest about where we can fail and where we can get better. So thank you for that. So what I wanted to do is actually spend a majority of the time taking questions, but I did want to just give you a couple of updates since I've been here. It's been a year, almost, again, I think to the day. I serve on two committees in the United States Congress. One is the Small Business Committee, which folks think is the most unsexy committee in the world. I think it's fantastic. It's overseeing the SBA and the almost billions of dollars that are attached to and supporting small businesses all over the country. There is an attack on our small businesses all over the country, particularly the ones that are being led by folks with green cards and folks who are going through their documentation and citizenship process. So I want you to know that, again, it seems like a very small committee. We've been able to pass 5 bills in the last year and a half, and for a freshman, we actually are leading as the most productive freshman in the Democratic Party in terms of our legislative prowess, because you've asked us and demanded that we do work. And I can talk a little bit about those bills during questions and answers, but there's real work there. The Oversight Committee is an extremely important committee. I'm so blessed to sit on that committee. Even in the minority, we're still able to push, and we have pushed. There's more pushing to do. I've recently been made a ranking member, meaning the top Democrat, for a new subcommittee focused on, of all things, DEI. There's hungry people in our country, but these fools on the other side of the aisle are worried about the ABA and law school admissions. And nevertheless, we're using that time to lift up what needs to happen in this country. Investments into healthcare, ensuring women have the right to make decisions over their own bodies, the fact that there's not free childcare, you name it. We're using every tool that we have to lift the values of this district within the dome. And just a couple of things before we get started, and if I forget anything, let me know. The committee work has been fantastic, and I've learned so much, not only where the bathrooms are, but really, I mean, I can't wait. When you come to DC, please let us know, because we will take you on a tour, a personal tour of the Capitol. It is wild, friends. It is wild, wild. With lots of underground tunnels and literally like secret rooms. But I'm home there. I understand not only what my role is, but I have a significant amount to offer, and really enjoying the fight every single day. Congress is a numbers game, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this idea of what is needed to take back the House. Now, this is an official town hall, not a campaign town hall, so we can do one of those too, where I can get really down and dirty about politics and how scandalous they are, but I really want to keep it on the legislative tip. You know, we're there to pass legislation, and that's the most important role, I believe, as a legislator, even in these times. I want to give you one of the examples why I've been so hell-bent on the legislative agenda. I haven't done a lot of national TV, we'll get there, but I really have wanted to understand how to move through committee, but also how to be extremely effective on the floor. You might have heard me talk about the story of when that one big, ugly, nasty, horrible bill, I call it the betrayal bill, it came to the floor, the House. You know how many votes it lost by?
2.
One vote. And it really on that day made me understand that so much of my work as a freshman was also to do the unthinkable and work with, I should call them my colleagues, but they're not collegial, my coworkers on the other side of the aisle, knowing and understanding even as a progressive must mean progress. And so that's been a really important part of our strategy, is spending a ton of time one-on-one with folks, again, from the Democratic and the Republican Party. I just wanted to talk a little bit about strategy there in terms of how I'm placing myself in our office and our voice. I've been spending a lot of time with leadership, and as you know, I get a lot of emails from you all. Everyone is pretty furious with Democratic leadership. I mean, I'm angry at everyone. I'm angry, and it's real, it's palpable. I still can't figure out why there's 7,000 people sleeping on our streets in this district. I still can't figure out why, while the pool at Castlemont has remained empty for 30 years. Understanding, you know, federal and state and local issues and budget issues, it's extremely frustrating. I'm really wanting my time with you all as your member to get things done, not just pass legislation, but to bring resources home. To that end, you know, we have, again, passed 5 bills through the House. One is actually deeply moving through the Senate right now. It's a small business bill to support small businesses who are victimized with cyber attacks. Again, not super sexy, but you know, you ask Miss Jean downtown, her whole computer system was swept up by tech pirates, and she lost everything. We want to do common sense legislative work, but we also, we've been hearing you. Lateefah, in the minority, you may not be able to pass a lot of bills that can bring back healthcare until you take back the gavel, but what you need to do is bring back resources. So we brought back, and literally have clawed back, $870 million in the last year and a half to California's 12th district. And I want to thank you for pushing us to do that. Everything from environmental justice project grants, we've been addressing sea level rise. San Leandro, we just gave them a big fat check to lighting up Berkeley's BART station, things that needed to come from the federal government, but they haven't. It's taken a long time. Barbara Lee, who's a deep and wonderful mentor, much of her community grants that she had gotten the okay for as soon as the Trump administration came in, they silenced all that resource, so we worked really hard to get back some of her, much of her push, and so we've been pretty successful there, and then we've delivered, again, on hundreds of millions of dollars of our own requests, and I want to thank you. I know that there's some researchers in the room, and maybe some physician scientists, where y'all at? You know, in our district, we host some of the most important institutions, including the CRISPR lab at Berkeley, which in our lifetime, I believe that sickle cell disease, or ALS, whether they're curable or deeply treated, so much innovation is happening out of that lab. In fact, there's is she here today? The Nobel laureate who runs the CRISPR lab? I think I saw her name on the RCP list. So she might be hiding. I have bad eyes, as you all know. One of the things we're really excited about is partnering with our institutions of innovation and education and bucking the Trump administration, because you know what, sisters and brothers and aunties and uncles, that's our money. That's our money. And so here is Stan and Dr. Joey and other folks and create real strategy to get with career staff, to get back the resources that were promised to us. I'll continue to do that while we're in the minority. A couple things before we move forward. A lot of folks, and I didn't know this, Congress is actually supposed to work with folks on the ground as well. So you want me to fight in Washington, which we'll talk more about, but we have 5 folks in our office. Somebody told me the other day they thought it was like 60 or 70. No, it's 5. 5 folks in our district office, and they are so focused on serving you. So focused on serving you. We are working with every federal office that may not have done right by you. That includes immigration and Veterans Affairs and Social Security. So I wanted to read a couple of stats, and I think we'll wrap it up, and let's get to some questions. So our district team, raise your hands and maybe make a sound. Woo! Woo! Our district team, do it one more time. Woo! Hey! And they'll be outside as you leave, so if you want to meet them, because when you call, you'll be talking to these wonderful young people, mostly Cal Bears, sorry Mills and Northeastern, American Bears, who graduated. We have spent so much time figuring out how to run a strong constituency services shop, and Eden, I want to thank you for your leadership there, and Hauser, who's the head of constituency services. We've solved in a year and a half over 1,250 cases and returned what I'm so happy about. This is not the grants. This is real people's pockets. $10.6 million back to District 12 residents. That's everything from Social Security, again, to veterans benefits. Some of you have called our office, and you might not have gotten through the first time, but you won't get through the second time. We have answered over 1,200 calls, just 5 folks, and they're out in the field most of the day, but we come in the morning, we get our calls in, we go do field work, and we're back trying to solve those cases midday, afternoon, and evening. I have a lot to talk about, but again, I'm trying to stop this TED Talk thing that I do. So let's get to the questions. Is that cool? You guys ready?
Thank you, Congresswoman. So some questions that we're seeing a lot of right off the top. And we're going to try this thing where I ask 3, so that we can get quickly through the questions. We'll see how well it works. So 3 questions at once. So first, a lot of stuff around immigration, ICE, visas. Many families are being separated from their relatives. How can your office help, and what are you doing in DC to address it? What can you do with Congress and us as citizens to oppose our authoritarian state? Lots of questions that I saw online about pushing back against Trump. And then how are you feeling about the chances of flipping the House and Senate in the midterms, and what can we do to make that happen?
So we're going to win the House.
Yeah.
And there are all these ethic laws. Imagine being like an organizer who's run a number of organizations and initiatives, and you come into Congress and they're like, you can't talk about this at this meeting, you can't talk about that at this meeting. It's very difficult, but I will tell you, we're going to win the House. We're going to win the House because we're all going to organize. And I want you to know, 1, we have, the numbers are in our favor. The polls are in our favor. I don't really listen to polls. I like being on the doors. If you want to know where I am during recess, I'm campaigning all throughout California, and I'll be doing some work in the South. We need 5 seats. Just in California, I think we have them. We will win the House. The question is, what are we going to do when we get it? Right? We're going to win the House, because it's not just California. We're going to pick up seats, a couple in the South, but this is at a time where our voting rights are, as Americans, have been slashed. We have gone back literally to almost a 1954 America. SNAP benefits have been cut in half for the folks who are literally hungry and desperate for nutrition and support. The immigration system is horrific, and I gotta tell you, there will not be an immigration center in California's 12th district by hell or high water. But going back to the question around immigration, let's sit there for a second. Every single bill that has come to the floor, every single demand letter, your Congresswoman has voted the conscience of this district. But it's not good enough. Whether it's not funding Homeland Security, they still live, they have they have so much money. $800 billion extra has gone into, they have the votes, has gone into an unchecked system, not just to impudiate the immigration system that had already, before even this administration was sworn in, was already overwhelmed. They fired immigration judges. They essentially decimated a system that was rotten to begin with, but instead they have created a new army of sorts and stopped due process opportunities for folks who for years have been going through. It takes sometimes 10 to 15 years to get your citizenship, and we know that our residents deserve better. I want to continue, of course, voting hell no every single time a budget ask is in front of us, but I also want to be proximate, and we have been. Calls have come into our office. We will continue to work with folks who are in the immigration process. We don't provide representation. That's not what our office can legally do. Representation in terms of legal representation, but we are linking folks up with organizations, with support services. Our county, and Nikki Bass couldn't be here tonight. Where's Nikki's staff person?
Oh, not here.
They are on their way. There's some traffic going. But they're committed to really providing access to real tangible resources for families who are struggling, who don't feel like they can return to work. We will, when we win back the House, we will have to build up the scaffolding slowly but surely to provide Americans and folks seeking asylum and folks seeking the recognition of citizenship, their due process and their rights. It is extremely scary. I've told you guys a story about being in Minnesota right after the death of that young mother and going to a space and place where she was shot in the face for being part of a civil action. And I'm in Washington, D.C., and if you were to see not just ICE, but these young, amazing, beautiful men and women who are National Guards who could really be doing disaster work and other work instead, they're standing around in circles in the middle of the city. The Trump administration has lost its mind. It's ignoring the Constitution. And again, being on the Oversight Committee, until we take back the House, we'll be trying to do everything that we can to continue to investigate. And soon enough, hold them accountable with real subpoenas and real orders of contempt. And then let's take back the presidency.
Immigration, flipping the House, and then what can we do, what can you do in Congress and us as citizens to oppose this authoritarian state?
I think it's okay, can't Counselor voice. Everything that we can do. So, someone came up to me the other day. I was actually at a fundraiser for a woman named Marnie, who's running in San Diego, who needs to win. And this brother said, I need you to tell folks what they can do. And I was like, you take to heart who the folks in this district are. We're already doing it. Folks are voting. You're going to vote. 1. 2, you're calling not only your congressmen, but you're calling your local electeds to ensure that our local civic society is ensuring that folks can get to voting spaces and places. Folks are reaching out across city and state and regional lines to check in. Our brothers and sisters in Alabama and our folks in Michigan and folks in New York, folks in Texas, and the gerrymandering that has gone on all over the country. Again, we can feel so powerless with the recklessness of this administration, or we can get on the phone with our friends every single day, our colleagues and folks in our communities. The best thing that I love being in the Bay Area, and I hope there's some of these folks here, the OGs, the old school aunties and aunties who are in front of Lake Merritt, the movie theater every day with the signs. Because some of y'all here, like this adorable movement, be outside. We have to be consistently active, because resting on our laurels, or in fact believing that someone else will do it for us, there are so many organizations in the Bay Area, but also beyond. And I would ask all of us to be witnesses. Be witnesses. Every single piece of privilege that we have, we can use that to bear witness, like those folks in Minnesota, the story of folks being out at night, every night during that insurgency of military, folks who had a lot of privilege, who had papers, they had their whistles, and they would let folks know if ICE was coming with no knock warrants, and they would stand and film and provide legal supports. The churches and the synagogues and the masjids were surrounding folks every single day, ensuring outside of those facilities that they heard them. That's who we are too. That's who we've always been. And I want to say that we've been teaching folks around the country how to stand in solidarity. So thank you, California, as well.
All right, another block of questions. We have some folks who are concerned about AI and data
Let's go
centers.
there.
How do we protect Oakland and especially rising housing costs due to the AI boom? And I see our Pause AI family here in the room.
Pause AI, give it up for them. Thank you all so much. You've been so wonderful in educating my staff and myself about the possibilities, the negative externalities. We know that there's some positive opportunities with innovation and artificial intelligence. What we know is that the folks who are making the technology must not be the only ones determining how it is used. So a couple of things, and I just want to get straight into this. And I actually wrote down some notes so that I don't misspeak, because this work is really, it's the center of much of our conversation right now. There's absolutely an existential threat of not regulating what seems like an unregulatory sector. And there's also an opportunity to look at what good can be done. And there's so many things. Again, as a widow, as someone who took my husband through cancer, I'm so excited about technology that can provide early diagnosis and that can provide education in rural spaces to folks. But we all know what we're nervous about. So I want to talk a little bit about that and just verbatim, let's just go. So here's what I believe, that there should absolutely be no data center in any community in the East Bay, without guardrails to protect our communities. You can't bring a new sector into any community where there's negative externalities without voices who can control how their communities work. I too want jobs. I too want innovation. There will be no data center on 12th and Franklin. We are working really, really closely with community members, and we have been in touch with the owner of that space. I've been talking to the mayor of Oakland to ensure that we're in line step. And what I'm learning as a member of Congress, the old way I used to do things was like just to scream and yell. I'm learning that you all are needing me to have conversations, that are intimate conversations with folks who can make decisions, and I want to continue to do that. I'm extremely nervous. I'm a renter, and my lease is up in April. I live with my daughter, who's 15, and my eldest daughter, who is a brand new lawyer. She has a baby and a husband. We're all cramped in this little apartment, and we know that in just a few months, we all have government salaries, that we may be priced out of Oakland. We feel that. And I want to continue to work with folks in this room to guide our AI and data policies. But again, I want you to know that we have signed on to a number of demand letters to OpenAI and Anthropic with the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We are keenly aware that prior to this AI rush, this community has had a ton of data storage facilities. So from AT&T to Kaiser to the facility in question on 12th and Franklin, or is it 19th and Franklin? That's been a data center for 10 years. It's been a data center. So we're also learning about what exists, where we need to go, and how we can protect the voices of folks in community who are extremely nervous about the extractive nature of any sector coming in. I want to be smart here, not just reactionary, super smart. But many of you have been loud and clear. Nothing without us. Nothing without us. So your voices are extremely central. I'll continue working with all of our mayors, but also having conversations with developers and having conversations with folks who are hosting these technologies around the world. We're a very, very special district. We want to breathe clean air, have clean water, have our children grow up without asthma. There have been dumping grounds for far too long in communities like West Oakland. So from AI to coal, I'm standing with our residents and really being clear of what you all need and what you all want. So let's just continue to have those conversations, but we will not be steamrolled by any sector. Absolutely not on your watch and not on mine.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We have a couple of questions about what are you doing to fight the Oakland coal terminal, and what can we do as residents. We also have some questions about what are you doing to limit President Trump's action in this illegal war against Iran. And then a couple folks have questions, concerns about Social Security, and what are you doing to preserve that?
So I want to talk about war first. it's a terrible time in the world, and the conversation of who lives and who dies is one that unfortunately there's no easy answer, and I love that I'm in a district that has a long-standing commitment to voting peace every single time. I will vote every single time for full bellies over bombs. I will vote every single time for meals over munitions. The suffering of folks all over the world. I did a very uncomfortable talk just a few weeks back about our president, taking a multi-billion-dollar gift from the UAE, knowing what is happening in Sudan, that the UAE is completely complicit in thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths. I mean, there are so many examples, and these conversations are tearing our communities apart. They're tearing our communities apart, but I want you to know how I will always vote. And if we don't agree, I accept that. But who we are, I want to consistently hold the line around peace. I will not ever vote for this budget. The Department of War, but they renamed that department the Department of War from the Department of Defense. I will never vote for that budget, not a single damn dime of it. Not because I don't support our men in uniform, but the priorities are horrific. They're horrific. And we have leadership that doesn't respect the rule of law or the Constitution. The war in Iran is a war that never came to Congress. Again, we have prioritized war over peace and over diplomacy. We have prioritized war over children in schoolrooms. We prioritized war over the hungry folks in Texas. Did y'all know Texas was like #1 in the country and hungry people? And yet, every single Republican voted yes on the big ugly bill. Every single Republican in Texas and in Virginia voted yes to send more weapons without any yes from Congress. The president is unhinged, and I will not for 1 minute be brought into a slippery slope argument about who decides who lives or who dies. We can hold all the suffering in this district equally and understand that suffering can end if folks decide to be adults in the room. So that's my answer about war.
So it's war, Social Security.
Social Security, they say we'll have 10 more years of Social Security in the trust. I mean, again, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, we have a list for the next Speaker of the House of what they need to do, what they must do in terms of restoring resources to the entitlement programs that, listen, my daughter, I always go back to why the person was political. Her father died when she was 3 years old. And I remember sitting in the Social Security office just a few days after he died in Berkeley. The woman kept handing me tissues. The application was so long. There's another paper. And I'm watching all of these folks who were in wheelchairs, and they were blind, and elderly folks, coming in for a very, very small amount of benefit every month, which doesn't allow you even to pay your rent. You can't even have $2,000 of savings. Our Social Security system is broken, and again, as a disabled American, as someone who deeply benefits from that system in my own house, in my own family, I think that the Democrats have a responsibility day one to change the conversation and to fund Social Security consistently, and in fact, raise the resource for folks who are living and surviving barely on Social Security. But there is a real cost here. The Republican Party doesn't believe that poor people and disabled people deserve resources to live with dignity. But again, I want you to know where we stand.
And then the last one's coal.
No coal in Oakland. No coal in Oakland. One of the things that is important, we're trying to figure out how you stop that. When the President of the United States gives a no-bid contract to a private developer, who I want you to know that I don't hate at all. The developer has done so much good work around housing and small business. There's an argument that that coal terminal will bring jobs. You know what those projects bring to West Oakland, babies with black lungs, and elders who can't sleep at night. And I don't believe that we should give up on the commitment to renewable energy. We don't give up in California as well. We don't need coal. That coal needs a lot of stuff, but it doesn't need coal. So what we have tried to do, and again, I'm not stopping. We can't stop. We have tried to block that $79 million because again, there was no bid contract. Block with an amendment to this last spending bill. We tried to block it. Again, the Republicans pushed it aside. Thank God, I have a wonderful coalition that I work with in the California congressional delegation, including Adam Schiff. And we're working with Adam, the head of the coalition, Zoe Lofgren, who has just been fantastic, and Mr. Becerra. And we are not going to stop until that resource gets yanked back. Because folks in West Oakland, folks in this community, they deserve clean air, full stop. No coal in Oakland. You all have been very clear with me. We're going to use every tool. Again, being in the minority sucks, but we're going to use every single tool that we have to hold them accountable. Again, we're working with organizations who are planning litigation strategies. We're in there if you want to talk to our staff of how we can get more involved in what you're doing around stopping this. But again, from the federal level, we're doing all that we can in terms of the tools that are presenting with us. But it's going to be community voice, yelling and screaming, which we need. Also the letter writing, which does work. And then standing 10 toes down around healthy air and healthy communities. What we'll do a better job of when there are actions and when there are opportunities on my campaign side, I'll make sure we're blasting out information about how folks can stand with No Coal in Oakland Coalition and others, the Sierra Club, League of Conservation Voters, and just straight grandmas who have been outside every single day organizing around keeping their air clean.
Filtergami is evil.
You know what I'm trying to do? Let me tell you. Before I got into Congress, I hear what you're saying. Before I got into Congress, so much of, as an activist and an organizer, I would say the same thing. And I need you all to have an exceptional amount of anger for folks who we believe are betraying our own social contracts. Where my learning edge is in this moment is being able to use this position every single day, open up a door and sit face to face with the folks who have the power to change. Keep that anger. I'm pissed off too. But I want you to know that I'm trying to be smarter and more strategic every single day. We're working on a similar issue in Alameda. The Department of Veterans Affairs has again betrayed the people of Alameda. There's so many veterans who are sleeping on the concrete in this district. Over $400 million has gone in the last 20 years to building an outpatient clinic and support services and rehab services for our brothers, sisters, and siblings who serve the country. Do you know they send me one paragraph that they're yanking that project away? With no consultation. But now we're working with the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, because they thought we were just gonna take it and just say, no. We're going to ensure that folks who have literally put their bodies on the line for issues that they didn't even agree with, that they get some respect. So whether it be coal, whether it be the Veterans Administration, whether it be said developer, I know that there's a variety of strategies, knowing and understanding the conditions that we're going to have to use to win. So let's keep the indignation, but also press on me to be extremely strategic and smart and stop this hellscape. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Congresswoman. I'm going to do one more slate, and then we'll move to live questions in the audience. So 3 more quick ones. What can we do to fund BART, state public transportation? What about how can we unite the Democratic Party? And then what about how are we supporting people with disabilities? Last one about how are you supporting people with disabilities?
BART. I'm a transit rider. It's only been since I got elected and become an outwardly anti-work candidate that I haven't been on public transportation. I want to be transparent with you all. All that security that you went in, I wish we didn't have to have it. There are a lot of folks in politics now that receive a lot of death threats, and you know, we're in that camp as well. So I miss public transportation. It's a lifeblood. It is a right, not a privilege. I will be supporting the regional measure. I also believe that the BART Act in itself is deeply flawed, that any public transportation system, I don't care if it's in urban space or rural space, must be supported by a concrete base of revenue structure. BART, almost 70% or 60+% of barrier rapid transit's revenue comes from your Clipper card. And before that, I'm old enough for a BART card. And when COVID took over our reality, and I was the president of the BART board at the time, immediately, you know, we lost over a majority of our revenue. And we fought like hell during that time, and I want to thank Nancy Pelosi. I don't care what you think about Nancy Pelosi. She helped to get $3 billion back to the Bay Area for 26 service providers to keep first responders, teachers, grocery workers, folks rolling. A public transportation system that doesn't exist. People are less healthy. Children don't get to school on time. Our gender courts are crazy. You name it, you have to have public transportation, not only for disabled people, to me, which is core, but for a community to thrive. We have to win the measure. I want to win the measure. We can talk a little bit more offline about that. I'm phone banking with folks all the time. And we have to educate folks that if we don't, get more resources for our public transportation system, and also change the BART Act and change the way that Sacramento funds public transportation, and this is not hyperbole, people will die. In addition to that, I have a list of active bills that are in committee. I'm not going to write a bill for a message. I'm going to work those bills until I leave Congress. One, I believe, has some traction in the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. It's called the 24-Hour Paratransit Act. And did you know that, like, if you call paratransit, maybe some folks who use it in here, you just may not get a call back. It is underfunded, and you surely have to plan ahead. So a disabled person who has to reschedule, for instance, their dialysis treatment, they don't have the right necessarily to reschedule and to get same day or 24 hours systems. And all of that resource comes from the federal government, a little bit from the state, a teeny bit from the county. So in terms of my support for disabled communities, I gotta tell you, this is the heart and soul of the disability action community in this country. California's 12. The Center for Independent Living happened here. IDEA and the 504 fight, ADA happened here. I'm working very closely with the Center for Independent Living. In fact, the network of organizations in California for disability rights and justice, and they have given us their 10-point plan, and we're moving. I would love for you all to look at our bills page of our active legislation, and you'll see a majority of that legislation is for disability justice. We will get there. We will not let this administration or others, Democrat or the Republicans, put us and bifurcate us to the side as a disabled American. I want to leave office making sure that we've gone beyond the floor and the basics. So check out what we're doing, and I would love your support on these disability bills. They're really, really impactful. And again, all of those ideas have come from the ground.
And then the last was about uniting the Democratic Party.
Can burn some candles. What I will say, we are Democrats. We are going to go back to DC next week on Monday. I mean, my heart gets broken all the time. I'm on the floor and I look at another Democrat and I'm like, really? Did you just vote that way? Like you voted for the Lake and Rally Act? I mean, it's shocking. But again, I have to put my energy into, again, voting my district and continuing to make relationships with folks that I completely disagree with. We're going to need each other. But I am of the thought and idea, just like my grandmother said, you could live life a couple of different ways. I want to be the blueberry in the room, the antioxidant. And so there's going to never be a party, never, that completely agrees with one another, a large party. I don't know if it's possible. But we will be united on a few things. Healthcare. To the extent healthcare for all, or have a doctor when you need it, I'm on healthcare for all. I'm on the Medicare for all. home to die. That has happened more than 600 trials in this country just in the last year and a half. I believe we're having different conversations about diplomacy and war and peace. Again, these are very sticky and nasty conversations. It's hard, it's difficult, but there's more unity there. Again, where we have to work harder as a party is to understand at the end of the day, people might not know who their member of Congress is. They might not know who their governor is, but they know who their landlord is. You do. They know their school principal. They know their oncologist. They know the person at the corner store where they're trying to get a little bit more credit for a few more eggs. Their child care provider who didn't get paid last week because they didn't get their full paycheck. I mean, we have to think about how real Americans and folks actually abroad all over the world are living, and we're not. I've been very frustrated, but there's some change coming, and I'm excited to see it, and I want to be a part of it.
Thank you, Congresswoman. All right, we're going to move to live questions. Also, I want to shout out Supervisor Bass's office is here. Yay! Yay! Thank you for being here.
Now, conversations about if you know folks or you are folks in this room who need direct resources around not necessarily working with the immigration department, but there's not been a better office who's been providing real, whether it's food as medicine, direct access to care and support for folks who are struggling, particularly around immigration and food insecurity. I can go on and on. Nikki Bass's office has just been so phenomenal and great to work with. All of our elected partners have been extraordinary. We are working together in ways that I didn't believe possible. We know that folks have so much to lose. Nikki Bass's office. And who are the other folks who are representing electeds? Can you just raise your hand again? Okay, so we'll make sure that when we're done, you guys will be at the table outside as folks leave, so we know what you do and what you have to offer.
Thank you, Congresswoman. All right, Sky, right here, has the microphone. If you could just raise your hands, we try to get as many folks as we can. All right, this gentleman right here. Okay, Sky. Where are the stairs?
Don't fall, Sky, don't fall.
First of all, thank you for all you do for us, and thank your wonderful staff because they're incredible. My cousin lives in East Oakland, and he's noticed around Eastmont Mall an increased ICE presence and hang around the police station. And he's a person of color, and I'm concerned about deportation, torture, and that shameless behavior. And I'm also really concerned about election safety.
Yes.
So, but I'd like to.
So, there is ICE activity in Alameda County. One of the things that it's infuriating because there's always been and there will always be, border enforcement, and I get it. But the problem is with this administration, one, they are hiring thousands of ICE agents. They're getting a teeny bit of training. You ask your fantastic chief, by the way, who I love, he'll tell you his officers have to go through, just to wear a badge, 27 weeks of full-time training and then consistent training that the state is a requirement, consistent training on how to treat people, understanding the Constitution. These ICE agents that have been brought in who are getting $50,000 bonuses have so little, not only experience, but the requirement. They couldn't be police officers on the streets. There's so many things that police officers in our communities have to do that these ICE agents don't. We are not cooperating with their deportation machine because it's not our job, meaning all 7 cities in this district. We are not using our labor of our local and regional and county offices, whether it be law enforcement or others. They're not going to procure our labor to violate the civil rights of folks, because it's not just undocumented people. It's become people who just look like, potentially, I don't even know how you look like you're undocumented. We know that the violations are real. So again, we are a welcoming district Some cities proclaim themselves to be sanctuary, which really does mean we don't work with the federal government to do their job. And unfortunately, their job under this administration has not been, we believe, constitutional. We are warning folks to carry all the documents that they have. I mean, this is really where we are, sis. We also are a part of a network of organizations, and again, Nikki's staff is also here, who's doing a wonderful job of providing referrals to, again, would love for your family members. There's Know Your Rights resources on our website. I think we have some right outside. Elections matter. They absolutely matter. And I wish I could tell you that we could stop these ICE agents from violating people's civil rights right now. We can't. We have to just keep fighting and keep suing and keep voting. But I want to make sure that your family members have all the access to the services that are available in this district. And there was a second.
It was about suppression of votes.
Election,
Yes,
election
yes,
safety,
yes.
and people being able to get to the polls.
So Rob Bonta, and also what I would like us to do is, send out all the updated guidance about what we're telling folks in California. Rob Bonta has convened a very strong roundtable of both Republican and Democrat attorneys general all over the country to protect election integrity. For us, meaning in this district, there are organizations, including the ACLU and others, all the ones that you know, that are going to physically be outside on election day. A lot of that work is happening all over the country. I want to make sure that if you vote by mail, that you know to go put it in a voter box. We're talking to folks all over the country. Vote before the day of the election. Put it in a voting box. And I'm sure your electeds here, and we will also make sure that folks know what that is and where those are. Send your votes in early. That's what we're being told in terms of directing voters. I don't put anything past this administration. Don't put anything past them. We are living in some very dark times. But there is organizing, there are resources all over the country to ensure that the elections will have integrity. That does not mean they're not going to try it. So vote early. I didn't want to say that, but you can say it. Say it.
Ballot in the mail, find a box.
We'll make sure, Piedmont, that you all have all of the information. This is a very, very thoughtful crowd, but there may be people that you want to just forward that stuff out to you, so we'll make sure that you have that stuff. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. All right, next question. Is someone in the middle? Right there.
Hello, Congresswoman Lateefah. Two-part question. We were talking about the infighting within the Democratic. I don't understand. We're all, for people that are Democrats, we're all Democrats. Supposedly we have a huge umbrella. What is the big pushback that's going on with Democratic socialists right now? I don't understand that. You hear it in the media all the time. It's been actually embraced by some Democrats and pundits on television all the time, and I don't think it's productive when we have an administration that is literally tearing down our democracy.
I agree. So,
And
not
the
to,
second-
you said exactly what needs to be said, that we have a real challenge and I would say an enemy to defeat, folks who don't believe that queer kids deserve to be in space. We have policies that are taking food out of babies' mouths. You have 14 million people who are going to be taken off their health care who need it the most. You have teachers who can't make enough to live in their communities. And we have these real distractions. And a lot of it is coming from the Republican Party, but also some of it is coming in from the hen house. Let's fight together anti-Semitism, let's fight, clap it up. It's real. It's real. Let's fight homophobia, let's fight racism and homophobia. There's so much hate out there. We can project it. McCarthyism is real, the threats of communism and all these things to just tear us down from the real conversation. Folks are afraid to live. And one of the things I want you to know, I'm not participating in that argument. The argument to me is, what are you willing to do to keep people safe, to keep people fed, to ensure that we can pray the way that we want to pray, and that resources are going towards building instead of tearing down. What I have told, a lot of the little ladies, the Democratic donors in San Francisco that I met with a few weeks ago, that are funding the DCCC, which I think is important so that we can take back the House, they're worried about this question too. I've been on the phone with every single new member who I believe will be coming in, and I'm a freshman, right? And I'm telling them, at the end of the day, there's a big beast we have to fight. To fight against one another means we split the vision and the promise of what we know we have to do. On January 2nd, when we are sworn in, we need to immediately begin legislating to build back what they have torn down. And it wasn't perfect to begin with, but I refuse to accept that what we're going to be doing, like string cheese, is just shredding us apart. The good and deep conversations that we have to have about annihilating hate, being okay with disagreeing, but also not tearing each other down are going to be primary. And I intend to lead a lot of those conversations in the House. So thank you and hold me to that, sir.
Okay, and the second part of my question, real quick. Are you aware that they are been approved and are supposedly building 2 new data centers in West Oakland?
Okay, yeah, I want to talk about that. So what we have confirmed, that, because again, I found out when you found out, right? Like there was these 2 big leases that were signed, and then the one downtown. We know in my office, again, my organizer training, your training, working with homeless folks, my chief of staff in DC has worked with USAID. We can't wait to figure things out and let what we call. The mayor hadn't heard much about it either. Again, this is private property. From what I understand now, again, working and being on the phone all day for the last week, with both community members, and we did find the contact to the subsidiaries, to these sort of big, larger companies. What, again, I've seen it in writing, is what we've been told. They won't be data centers, but will they be manufacturing centers? Will they change the demography of the community? I'm from Fillmore in San Francisco originally, half my family's from West Oakland. Thousands of families have been pushed out in the last 20 years. Unaffordability is a very real thing. I'm very nervous about good things happening to some and horrible things happening to others. I am very aware. We have been on the phone with Prometheus. I was on the phone this morning with the developer from downtown Oakland. We have gotten verbal confirmation that none of those will be data centers. Will they be affiliated with this larger AI push? I do believe so. Let's stay in consistent contact. I mean, it will be, there's so much I want to do in this office, but the anxiety that this is producing is so real. It is not hyperbole. Things will change and rents will go up. Will we, Barbara, Ms. Lee has said, we ain't ready for a data center. There's a lot of studies, there's a lot of, RPG is already too damn high. We don't want any sector to fundamentally make us sicker. That said, much of this is private exchange. I want to keep you updated, I want to be updated, and I really want to continue to lift the voices of folks who are not in some of those rooms. So thank you so much for the question.
Yeah. All right, let's start over here now. We're gonna try to get someone on this side. Please. Right here. It's right in front of me.
Hi.
Thousands of Ukrainians moved to US because of war, system safety. People moved temporary just while the war happening, and a lot of people have pending Ukrainian parole status and pending temporary protected to receive EAD card. Now people waiting 2 years. And the question is, does your office help them how to make some expedite requests? And is there any way to speed up the USCIS just to issue this?
So, two things. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and we're so glad you're here. Like, not just here at Piedmont, we're so glad you're here in the Bay, and that you're safe. I would really love whoever's from Nikki Bass's office to meet directly with this young man before he leaves, and also our office, if we can get your information so that we can make sure that you can get to the right service provider. Nobody should go hungry. Like, there is enough to go around. And we got you. We got you. If the parents, if the children are hungry, no one should go hungry. And that's just not a value statement. There's resources and there's food. And so we are going to make sure when you leave out of here, you're connected. But not just you. If there is a whole community that is being denied access to basic sustenance, let us help. So we're going to make sure, and it's Helser and then someone from Nikki's office, if you can please connect.
Thank you.
Do you have one more thing?
I just want to highlight that we don't need any benefits, we just need employment authorization.
Yep.
And most of people just the right to work to show the employer to continue working, because some people have paid some get. For example, TPS status, it should be removed 2 days ago, but now no season please cannot work.
I appreciate that. I want to find out more about how we can help because
Yeah,
Helser's here. We're getting calls all over the district from employers, from restaurants to physicians that folks are losing their work status with just an email or a phone call. And so count on us to figure out what's going on and how we can help. Helser, please connect, and also Nikki connect. So if that food question wasn't directly from you, somebody in this room needed to hear that, and we're on it.
Great, thank you. All right, we are at 7:05, so we're gonna do one more question. I'm gonna say this area since we haven't hit this section yet. I see a young hand.
Find really quick, which is always a problem. That's usually one.
It was actually a perfect comment, because that's what we were question. I just wanted to just say I feel really honored to be in this room with you and all of the people on your team. You guys are all really wonderful. And I kind of wanted to ask, as someone who's here and looking around this room and feeling like one of the few people around my age, and also being able to look around my classrooms and see that not many people in my generation are as passionate or as inspired or as active in our politics. How are you in your team reaching out to my generation, kind of inspiring younger voices to be involved?
No, I really appreciate the question. You know, last week I did an amazing, I thought it was amazing. It was about 80 young people, mostly young women and trans kids of color who have been in the juvenile foster care system. And we did a town hall at the Young Women's Freedom Center, which is run for and by young people. And, you know, the week before we were in the Oakland Pride Parade, and to see all of these trans kids just free, they were trying to teach me like how to move, it didn't work. But I was so proud of the organizing that's happening. Where I will say, sis, are you in high school or college?
I'm in college.
The learning curve, figuring out where to be. We've done stuff on campus at Cal, we're doing stuff at Peralta, but you know, the town hall structure, I noticed it myself. It's like, we gotta figure out how to, I was a youth organizer for 20 years until I woke up and wasn't a young person anymore. So I'm connected with a lot of youth organizations, but I would love to our staff to get your information to brainstorm with you of how we can be better, because the Democratic Party is not only dying because we're not talking about kitchen table issues. We refuse to understand that young people need and want something so much different than what we're giving. False promises. We're always about how well we're doing and how much we're listening. So I want to thank you for the call out. And I want to hold myself accountable for, we're doing stuff in faith communities, which I could be doing better in that space. But folks your age, many of them will be voting for the first time. Many folks will be voting for the first time in the next 2 years. And what they have seen of our politics is shameful. So keep holding me accountable, but again, we're not gonna wait here, we're gonna start doing some stuff immediately, I do want your voice. And we do have paid internships in the fall, and we throw our folks right in. So you're building a new member office with us together and prioritizing where you feel like we have gaps. We definitely have some work to do. Let's do one more question. Thank you. You can tell me your first name?
Sierra.
Okay.
We actually met.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
All right, one more question.
There's a hand that's been really high down here too. Maybe we can ask two of them and then we'll just end together. We'll end with one answer. Great.
So, first about voting, I learned this week, so I'm gonna be out of the state from the time the ballots come out till after the election. And the Alameda County Register of Voters told me this week that I could go online after the ballots come out, download my ballot, and I actually went on, it's not there yet, but I saw where to go. That you can download your ballot, put it in an envelope, and, address it. I know mailing is not ideal, but you have to sign, your name so they can check that you're you.
Yeah.
But even being away is not an excuse not to vote.
So what's your name?
Beth Strollby. I'm the president and CEO of the National Organization on Disability. We met once. I would expect you to remember.
No, I wanted to have you say your name so everybody could say, thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
Because I did the same thing last year. I voted from DC.
The question that I have is related to disability, but it's really a legislation question more writ large. So you said, we need to start passing legislation. The thing is that legislation gets implemented by regulation.
Yes.
So the Department of Labor gutted.
They just got it.
They gutted Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act, which impacts the ability of people with disabilities to work and earn a living and without discrimination and to be evaluated as an employee, not an employee with a disability. And if you go back to the legislation, it said, it says, advanced discrimination and companies federal contractors are required to take affirmative and positive actions to employ people with disabilities. But if you don't have an infrastructure for the surveys and the reporting, and so I'm just wondering if you take that to a larger question, are we learning some lessons about the specificity that needs to go into legislation so that they can't wheedle their way out in regulation?
I think that's a great question. You're right. Staff, let's develop, I'm again working with Center for Independent Living, but I think I would love to sit with you and start etching out really some of this conversation to have. There's a very small disability caucus that's almost inactive. I'm like, hey guys, she's fantastic. And yes. And what we have said we wanted to do is also come like the Congressional Progressive Caucus, come with a list of legislative ideas for day one. If we could get together sooner than later so that we could get the specificity of what you're urging me to do and get that in black ink. Thank you so much for being here.
We hosted a disability policy roundtable. That's 16 or 17 disability organizations around across disabilities. One voice around federal policy. So we have what we asked for. I don't call it an administration. I call it it's not the administration. It's the abomination.
It is the abomination. They host a roundtable, if you can't hear in the back, of many different disability organizations around the state. Great. We would love that. And there's so many folks in the audience. You all have taken us up on consistently engaging, and literally that is our full job. Where we haven't done it, we will do more work in that space. Developing this office, from the ground up, we have learned so much and still have so much to learn. I'm really excited to grow with you. Let's do it. Thank you guys. And again, I'm so honored to serve you. This is an honor of my life. An hour to talk to some of the most brilliant people is not enough. And so let's keep engaging. I want to do more. Roundtables are good and amazing. Your kitchen tables are amazing. Let us know how we can show up even more. Thank you and bless you. Thank you.